Check that out. Kurt, member for 3 years. Thank you so much. Today, we're going to be talking about a case out of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals called Peterson. Peterson deals with suppressors and if suppressors are protected under the Second Amendment. For a little review, let's go ahead and look at it, what happened in the past. There's a case called Peterson. Peterson claimed that suppressors are protected under the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution because they are protected arms, just like we have the GCA and FA both say that they are protected arms, but a 3-judge panel from the Fifth, which is usually really pro-gun, said no, they are not protected arms. They are 100% free of Second Amendment challenges. We can do whatever the hell we want because they are not protected arms. They don't have that protection. So a bunch of other people jumped into the case saying, wait, that's wrong. We have 2 federal statutes on the books that says they are protected arms. And we are hoping that the Justice Department would not try to head off an en banc. An en banc is when the full bench hears the case. And the plaintiffs, or the Peterson in the case, and his lawyers asked for an en banc hearing about this. This is the United States versus George Peterson, if you want to look it up. And now the DOJ, Michael Simpson of the DOJ, is asking an en banc to be denied because the DOJ's official stance under Pam Bondi and Trump is that suppressors are not protected by the Second Amendment, which means they can be banned by any state, any federal government, whatever. There's no protection for the Second Amendment. And you might say that, oh, Michael Simpson is a Biden holdover, but for the past few hours, I've been doing some research into Michael Simpson. In February, he became the acting U.S. Attorney General for the Fifth Circuit. So that was under Trump and under Bondi in February. And before that, he was the first assistant attorney, U.S. attorney under the first Trump administration. So he's definitely not like a Biden holdover. He's been in federal government for a while. He actually was put into his position, or a position in the U.S. Attorney's Office, by George W. Bush. So this guy is a Republican that was appointed by Republicans, promoted by Republicans, and promoted again by Republicans, including twice by Trump. And he's going to argue that you have no rights to suppressor because suppressors are not arms. There's no protection for suppressors, and anyone can ban suppressors for any reason. And there's no constitutional protections for that, which is kind of ridiculous because if you look at the GCA actually brings up suppressors and they state that suppressors are arms. Not only that, but the NFA states that they are arms as well. And there's millions of suppressors, so they are in common use. I think what we're seeing here is the DOJ trying not to lose their case by stating something that is absolutely ridiculous and absolutely against federal law. But that's what they're doing. And I always have conversations with Rich, my co-host of John Crump Live, which we're going live over on Rumble at 10 p.m. on John Crump Live. But I always tell Rich that I do not think Trump is a true Second Amendment guy. I think that will say anything to get elected, and he does not represent the Second Amendment community. Rich kind of disagrees with me on that, but I think history proves out that my stance is right. So th- they actually cite in the brief, they actually cite several cases by liberal judges that try to say that suppressors aren't protected by the Second Amendment. Well, my question is, if they're not protected by the Second Amendment and they're not arms, then why the hell is the ATF regulating them? What's interesting here is depending on what court the ATF goes into, they either argue that they are arms when it falls in their favor, or they argue it's not arms when it falls against them. So they need to make a choice here. They can't play both sides of the fence, and that's exactly what they're doing. They are stating that yes, these are arms in certain cases. In other cases, they're stating they're not arms and have no Second Amendment protections. My question to the ATF is which one is it? Are they protected arms or are they not protected arms? They cannot be both at the same time. It's like a Schrodinger suppressor. So maybe in certain cases when it goes against what they want to do, they are arms, and when it goes against what they want to do in this other case, they're not arms. Trump has the ability to go in there and remove this guy from his position. He could easily do that. He could do that with a stroke of a pen. Pam Bondi could do that with a stroke of a pen. Yet I do not see them doing that. It does not seem like they want to do that. They want to pretend like they're all high and mighty on the Second Amendment, but they're not. They are not our friends. They are not pro Second Amendment at all. It's very, very interesting. Vulcan Rumble does say something right here where it says they declare them arms because they wanted to tax them. And if you look back in 1934, exactly, they sure can argue both ways. The courts want any excuse that they can to disarm us. 100%. 100%. So we'll have to see exactly what happens here. And it's not it's not a cool thing, and it's actually very disingenuous for this administration and the DOJ to say, "We're here all about Second Amendment rights. We're going to protect your Second Amendment rights." And yet, what do? No, they don't. They don't. They try to infringe on your Second Amendment rights. What we have is both sides of the aisle that want to infringe on your rights. They will say whatever they want to look like they are fitting in with the Second Amendment community, but it's not. Yeah, AXR says time to print your own suppressors. There's plenty of STL files out there with suppressors. In fact, if you look, the guy that killed the United Healthcare guy used a printed suppressors. So you can't stop the signal. Suppressors are easy to make and they are all over the place. And you can print them, you can make them out of maglite tubes. There's tons of ways to make them. It's just a shame that people that claim to have our best interest, our Second Amendment rights in their minds, will go out of their way to infringe on your rights and my rights. We're gonna have to see what the Fifth Circuit does. I have a feeling that the Fifth Circuit is going to grant en banc, and they will overturn the Peterson decision, and I think that's gonna go good for us. But this brief by the anti-gun people inside the DOJ, including Pam Bondi, because Pam Bondi likes red flags. She likes raising the age to buy guns to 21. She is not a Second Amendment supporter whatsoever, and this guy works for her. If I'm wrong, fire this guy, get him off the case, withdraw the filing, and let it go to en banc. But you know what? I don't see that happening. I do not see that happening. Yeah, remember, Trump did go against bump stocks. That is exactly right, Barbara. He did go against bump stocks. He was listening to the NRA, and we'll have to see what happens. He also said take the guns and then worry about due process later, which isn't, which did not give me the warm and fuzzies. That's one of the reasons that I voted for Trump. Yes, because he was better than the other evil. But I've never ever been a MAGA guy myself. Rich is, I am not, and yeah. If we had Matt Gaetz in there, I believe that we would have had better a better chance of this not being filed, but it was, so we're gonna have to see how this plays out. Once again, I do believe that the 5th will grant en banc, and I think the panel's decision will be overturned. Let me explain how en banc works. Thank you so much, CNN is fake news. I 100% agree. This is how it works. The three-judge panel comes up with a decision, and then the losing party can file for an en banc hearing, which means the full bench will hear the case. If en banc is granted, which it's not a guarantee that en banc will be granted, what will happen is the panel's decision will be vacated and it will go back to the district court's decision. So it would be like the panel's decision never happened. So we will have to see what happens. Like I said, I do believe that they will go ahead and grant en banc, but yeah. All right, let's see here. Trump told Pierce Morgan he doesn't like suppressors and will treat them like bump stocks. This was right after the Virginia Beach shooting when a gun used a can. Yeah, I remember the Virginia Beach shooting. One of the things about that shooting that's interesting is they say suppressors are tools of assassins and it makes guns silent. Well, the guy had a 45 with the suppressor on there, and people called police because they heard him shooting. So, which one is it? Does it make a gun silent or doesn't it make a gun silent? It's freaking crazy. It's freaking crazy. But yeah, we have to come together as gun owners and we have to not forget this. We have to remind these people. I am going to see what I can find out more about this, and hopefully this will get withdrawn. But honestly, I doubt that it's going to get withdrawn. I think what will happen is that they'll keep on rolling with this order, and we'll have to see what happens. But I do believe that en banc will be granted and will win in the end. But it goes to show you that you cannot trust people just because they have an R by their name, because they're out there to screw you over just as much as the people with the D by their name. Maybe not as much, but they're still trying to screw you and infringe on your rights. So we have to fight back, we have to push back, and we have to spread the word and let people know that This stuff is still happening, and our gun rights are still still being attacked. When Trump won last time, he made a statement to the NRA that the war on the Second Amendment is over. Then he went after bump stocks and supported red flag laws. One of the suppressors gone. So we'll have to see what happens here. But never, ever, ever trust a politician, no matter who that politician is. And that's basically it. Just wanted to keep you guys informed because I am really, really pissed off here. We'll be talking about it more tonight on John Crump Live. And yeah, the John Crump Live at 10 p.m. over on Rumble. Check out the ways you can support my channel. If you don't know, my contract that I was working on got canceled, so I'm going to be out of a job for a little while. So whatever support you can give works. And I also have some patches coming out for supporters that I'm going to be shipping out as well. But until then, I will see you guys later. And remember, stay vigilant, stay free, keep in the fight, and I'm out of here. Bye.